They said the creek was quiet until I showed up with the flash. Now it bubbles like a cauldron full of chaos and sass. Flip the switch, boom, spores light the night. I'm that mad mycologist, cooking dynamite. Roll up in the lab coat, looking like a villain. Petri dish, pimping every strain I'm killing. Got that mycelium feeling spreading in the ceiling. Dr. Salary and Sermon got the culture kneeling. Moon pearl shimmer while the flask gets hot. MCM, baby, we the cream of the crop. I mix oats and sawdust, make that block ignite. Fungi fireworks, call it Friday night. I'm a spore bomb lighting up the scene. Grow bags popping like a fever dream. Got jars on the table, culture's clean. Dr. Silurian cooking up that green. Mossy Creek, that's dynamite. Spreading spores till the stars take flight. Call the lab, tell them brace for blight. Cause I'm blowing up the world with mycelial might.
Well, hello. Well, we've got people having a chat already, looks like. Well, welcome. Excuse me, I've had a cold all week. It's hit me pretty hard, so thankfully, it was very quick. So I got sick like 2 days ago. Yesterday was a really bad day. And then today's been much better. Of course, until now that I start trying to talk, now it's excuse me. Now it's coming back with a vengeance on my throat. Other than that, I feel really good. All right, let's see how we got. Me 1011 Laughing Frog Farm. That's a good name. I'm sure at least Andrew's a space nerd watching and seeing the live stream to the possible success. Blue Origin New Glenn launch now streaming. I should. I don't know why I didn't think to do that. That would be pretty neat. I guess I don't know how many of my audience are actual space nerds. It wouldn't be hard to pull up that stream and watch it. You just gave me an idea for a new channel. I might start literally streaming space events and then just doing like live space hangouts on a new channel for actually it's an old channel that I had where Ben and I did a space-centered podcast for a very short time, like 2 episodes. And then Ben and I realized we don't have time for this. So, but that's not a bad idea. I'm going to do that. What's up, CD House? Yeah, you guys have been having a whole conversation in Dominican Republic. Wait a minute. Dominican Republic. Guy? You're not Guy, are you? Yep, Scottish in the Caribbean growing mushrooms. Can it get any better? Okay, now you really make it, because Guy was Scottish. Is this guy? We have some pretty good mushrooms here in the Pacific Northwest rainforest where I live. So yeah, that's actually really interesting because where I live here, we are about 2 inches shy of being a temperate rainforest. And so it, of course, makes for good mushrooming. It's getting dark outside so quick. In Washington State. Okay, yeah. Yeah, you went up there and is that the Cascades area? Just cloned 3 days ago. Wild turkey tail from my back garden. I'm hooked. Hell yeah, you are. That's the way it goes. It's absolutely a thing, man. Once you start bioprospecting and you start collecting wild strains, and then you have them, like in your grow room, right? The first time you get a wild mushroom that you cloned, no one else in the world has it, and only you do, right in your grow room. It's such a addicting feeling. Plus, I mean, then it gives you the ability to just pick up all kinds of things from your local area that are going to be completely unique. Who even knows about the genetics in it yet? So we've been doing a mentorship this week. I have not been doing it as much. Samantha's covered a lot of this mentorship because I got sick. So today we would normally go over cloning mushrooms and stuff. We're going to do that tomorrow. But that's something I try to teach every single I do teach every single mentorship is how to clone mushrooms. And then I try to get them turned on to bioprospecting because, I mean, even if you're out in the desert, there are oftentimes useful, unique things out there occasionally that you can find. And it makes, just really, I mean, desert genetics are really unique in the mushroom world. Very few people have that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's exactly like what I was talking about there. So addictive. I wake before 10 a.m. now. Wake before 10 a.m. Like you go out in the morning to go get some stuff. Thank you. I really like that intro song. That was, I'll be honest, that it was AI, but I've been working with the AI. I got a music generator that I picked up from a buddy of mine, and I do have to work really hard to get a song. AI does not like pronouncing microbiology-centered words correctly a lot of the time. So, and you guys are going to excuse me. I'm going to have a cigar while we're talking because I'm it's a cigar kind of time. Like just like last week was. Sometimes when I'm feeling kind of throat scratchy and stuff, like a cigar really, I don't know what it is. It both irritates and soothes at the same time. So, what's up, Myco Nerd? Big Space Nerd here. Okay, well, then there's going to be some crossover. So, whenever, okay, I'll get it started up. I'll get the live streaming studio and everything set up for that. And then we'll start doing space news. And then I'll see if I can't get Ben, because Ben is even more of a space nerd than I am. And I'm a space nerd-ish. But Ben is the real true space nerd. And Ben is, I'm the affable person people like. So I'm the likable personality. He's probably watching and going to have something to say about that. Just real quick, before we get too far into things, hold on, I'm trying to silence my phone. Before we get too far into things, I do want to give a reminder. I just put a video out. I actually need to check it and make sure it's not completely filled up already. But we have 2 spots left in our mushroom cultivation basics online course. And that's on mossykreekmushrooms.com. There's 2 spots left for the November 22nd class. And then we have a December class that is a liquid culture deep dive. So if you're going to take the cultivation basics course, go ahead and sign up for that. And when you're ready to sign up for the liquid culture deep dive, let me know. And I'll get you a 30% off discount coupon to go since you're taking both courses there on the second one. But I just wanted to make sure that we're going to probably announce that a couple of times because I want to make sure people who want to get the chance. Now, I will be doing another basics course early next year at some point. That might be excuse me. That might be January or February. I'm not sure which one yet. I've got to get through all that stuff and I'm getting 12 months scheduled out. We'll probably every 3 months or so, or maybe every other month, do a cultivation basics class. So, because I know that that's going to be my most popular one. So we'll have that, and we'll have a a different subject monthly. So next month is a liquid culture deep dive. We'll be doing one more liquid culture deep dive next year sometime, probably mid-summer or so. But we'll also be doing a like gardening with mushrooms, a breeding mushrooms, a cordyceps class that we'll be doing near the end of this coming winter season. So probably February or March, probably March actually. We'll be doing, my goodness, a lot of different things. So I better catch up on the chat. Hello from Badger Canyon Mushrooms in Washington State. Well, hello, Badger Canyon. Space mushrooms are now a thing now. Well, I've already sent mushrooms to space. Well, I didn't send them to space. I worked on a couple of projects that sent mushrooms to space. I know a couple other people have too. There's been a lot of mushroom-related projects going to the International Space Station. That's pretty cool to be the subject matter experts and then the genetics provider for one of those trips. We were also the subject matter experts for Samantha was the one in charge of that one. It was basically went and lived in like a Mars habitat. The representative did, and then tried to grow mushrooms on like packing peanuts and things like that. So space mushrooms are definitely a thing. And if you read The Expanse, if you read the Expanse series, they definitely talk about people being mushroom food and stuff out in the belt, which is super cool. And I will totally do I'm so down for a space-centered live stream. That is something I could work into my life very easily, and I already have everything that I need to do it, including the live streaming studio that we've got here. And I'll look at the camera here in a little bit, guys. I know I'm not looking at the camera much right now, but I'm focused on what my hands are doing. Hello, beautiful mushroom man and great mushroom people. Well, thank you. I always enjoy being called beautiful. It's the beard. I know. It's the beard. Oh my gosh, my roller does not want to roll. And all I want is this paper in here. And if I could roll at all with my hands, I'm not, unfortunately, someone who is really good at that. So I have to cheat with the roller. That's a lot of work. I should just get my pipe out and smoke the pipe tobacco that way. But again, I'm always happy to be called beautiful people. So just FYI, flattery will get you everywhere. Gold chanterelles are out in full force right now for you? Really? Man, we had a cold snap. It stopped everything dead. I've not found a single hen of the woods this year. And every year we go up to Cumberland Mountain Range, and that area is just full of hen of the woods. We didn't find a single spot, a single half-eaten one. It looked like there had not been a single bit. Like, our season has been off all year. We have not had a good mushroom season all year. My morel season was crap. Actually, I will say, in the spring, I found a lot of xylaria, which I'm totally after. So we bioprospected a lot of xylaria. We bioprospected a lot of reishi. I got a lot of new reishi strains this year and some new turkey tail. You trying to get me or just listening? Okay. So that's my boy. But Samantha and the mentorship are out making blocks with Thor right now. Thor the bagger, for those of you that don't know what Thor is. It's the best mushroom bagger on the market. The fastest, as I always like to say. I just say that because Eric Myers likes to say his is the fastest, and he's right. As long as you also count Thor as also the fastest, because as far as I know, they are neck and neck. The same speed, about a bag every 6 seconds or so. So I always like to just goad him a little bit. Actually, I wonder if Eric Myers would come on. I need to ask him sometime. East of the Cascades. Okay. Yeah, like, I'm just not getting stuff. I don't know how, like, mild your climate is throughout the year. We're starting to get to our cold season. So about the only thing we're going to have left soon is winter oysters. And like witch's jelly and things like that I don't really clone. There'll be some polypores and stuff that I can find, I'm sure. I can usually clone polypores through the wintertime. At least the persistent, perennial ones. And I do collect every polypore I can possibly find, but the fleshy ones are obviously easier to clone and keep. I'm sorry for the snot. I'm hoping that it's not coming through. Hey, Colin. Hello, Andrew from Seattle. I'm learning to clone. Might have a coral tooth growing on agar. One dish has a little light pink growth around the tissue specimen. So light pink is not. Sometimes hericiums will have that, especially coral tooth. They'll have that light pink. So yeah, that sounds. That sounds like you might have it. It kind of depends. Sometimes they turn pink. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes pink can be a mold. It depends on if it's growing really fast, then I would probably think mold. Hericiums tend to sit there and linger in the fruit form, and they'll tend to fruit off the fruit while they're starting to grow mycelium. And their mycelium is really wispy a lot of times. Not always. I have thought about turning Mossy Creek Mushrooms into a hericium company, because I have so many amazing strains of lion's mane, comb tooth, coral tooth, so many wild things now. Yeah. Last week I thought you were still going to join. Oh yeah, you asked me about that. No, if I was to do that, I definitely wouldn't do that on the live stream because there was no way I would be able to think and talk if I was to do that. Anytime I've ever tried that, I'm very, 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 very lightweight. So I try not to. I try to stay away from that stuff because I end up just going like the word stoned would be correct. I'm not a I don't know. Uh, not a heavyweight. I can't take a lot or anything like that. Hey, Colin, I'm in Kennewick. How did you know? Oh, from Seattle. Gotcha. Yeah, he said that. And around the pink growth, it appears to have mycelium growth. Some of this growth is growing up under the surface of the agar. That might, I mean, typically mycelium rather than mold. Mycelium has a very strong penetrative power, right? It can go under the plates and things like that. So, Tennessee Stargazer. Hey, I know you. Going to harvest some lion's mane for dinner tonight. Cooked in butter till browned. A little Moscato wine and a little bit of OD koi sauce. Isn't it like soy sauce, I guess? I love lion's mane with soy sauce. One of my favorite ways to cook lion's mane is to make soup beans in a crock pot. For those of you who aren't from the South, I assume that you guys don't make a lot of soup beans. Because we tend to do you make cornbread and soup beans and pretty much a lot of growing up for me, we always had a pot of pinto beans going. And then you'd put ham bone and little leftover bits of ham in there from like a picnic roast or something you'd cooked. So if you take that ham bone, put it in there with your beans, cut up some onion. I like to put onion in there and cook it the whole time. And then I put fresh onion in my beans as well. But when you get everything in there and the beans just start getting warm, I like to take lion's mane and just tear it up into shreds and throw it in there. And then instead of salt, like a lot of people like to add to their soup beans, I like to throw in soy sauce because it adds salt and just a lot more like depth of flavor. And it makes this almost like Asian-esque like soup beans. And you can still have with your cornbread and stuff. It's fantastic. I haven't made that in a long time, but you know what? I need to do that soon. I've actually got a picnic roast on the smoker right now that'll be smoking all night long. And it's a bone-in picnic roast, so I might do soup beans tomorrow with that smoked bone. Can mold or bacteria grow through or under the surface of agar? Bacteria doesn't normally, unless there is a way down for it, like if you got it cut. That said, a lot of times it won't force the agar. Like you'll see it growing under the agar. Here's your agar. Here's whatever you're seeing growing. Mold can sometimes lift it up. Mycelium will definitely grow under and kind of lift, but bacteria will rarely lift, and bacteria won't look like mycelium. So, I mean, if you color your agar, bacteria can definitely have, like if your agar is colored red, you can definitely have a pink hue to it. So, assuming a decent level of optimization, Thorbaggers, good strains, etc., how many pounds per month do you think is realistic for a one-man band to produce? So nowadays, that's probably very different than it used to be, but I would say easily 200 to 300 pounds. And you could probably do that without Thor. And so let's say that you've got Thor, some of the mortgage lifter strains that'll produce like 2.5 to 3 pounds per flush off a 10-pound block. Bag shaker of some sort, so that you're not sitting there spending a lot of time shaking bags. And if you're very good at not creating work for yourself, a lot of people in the mushroom world like to create work for themselves. If you're willing to eviscerate anything that's not necessary, like don't even make your own spawn, buy spawn in kind of thing. I mean, you could still make your spawn, but you'd have to do it in a systemic way. But you could very easily buy spawn in and then have a bag shaker, a bagger. Right now they're working on a spawn dispenser and bag cracker, which will take away even less work. Or take away even more work. And so, I mean, you could probably do a lot more than that if you're willing to work a good 40-hour week. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't be in the realm of possibility to grow somewhere around 400 to 600 pounds a week by yourself pretty easily. Now you're going to be working, you're going to be busy those 40 hours a week, but you could definitely do it. And that'd be a tidy little income for one person to split amongst themselves. Now you'd have, again, that's going to take a lot of upfront investment, because you're going to want the bag shakers, like $750 to $800 from Man of War, or you're going to do one of the drier ones where you take, do a little bit of modification to it. But I don't like those because they tend to bust bags more often. I mean, they're good too. Don't get me wrong. People use them. I've seen a lot of people love them. So it's whatever. Alternatively, a one-man band with a part-time worker for deliveries. Oh, then in that case, 400 to 600 pounds easy if you got a part-time worker. Though I would say, don't have the worker sit there and do the scut work and you do the deliveries, because the last thing that the farm owner should do is give up contact with their chefs. So, in my opinion, you should be the one doing the deliveries. You should be the one talking to the chefs. You should be the one doing the sales, and then you bring them to doing. I know it's really like a lot of people get into the mushroom work because they like growing mushrooms, but a lot of the times, like, it's all the accompanying stuff. Like, growing the mushrooms is not the difficult part. You can hire people to do that part. It's the making contact with your chefs, the keeping the quality control up, doing. Sometimes you can get a delivery driver to do service certain accounts like resorts and stuff that don't really require a lot of upkeep. I was trying to think of a different word than upkeep, but social upkeep, let's say. But a lot of chefs, like some chefs, don't want to talk a lot, but they like that contact with their farmer. So I'd be very remiss to give that up. I'm probably going to be drinking a lot of water in this stream. And this stream probably won't be as long as others, just because of the sickness. Hey, Mossy. Well, heart to you, too. I got a queue. I'm fruiting lion's mane, black pearl king, and king oysters. Lion's mane pinned first. How to preserve them before the others finished. Much obliged. Put them in a walk-in. Cool them. Put them in a cardboard box. Typically a cardboard box. Just like a regular one. Like regular corrugated box is like the best thing I've found. No produce boxes. They tend to have too much airflow. If you have not enough airflow in your cardboard box, then sometimes you can punch a couple of holes in the side by taking a drill bit and just drilling through the stack of boxes. But you do not want too much airflow, and you don't want too much stagnation. I find the cardboard's nice because it will actually absorb some of the condensation that the moisture that your mushrooms are releasing. And a lot of that's going to depend on how dry your refrigeration is. If you use those plastic totes that a lot of people do, a lot of times those things will just soak your mushrooms, and not in a good way, because the mushrooms will expirate that water, and then it'll just get sopping wet and drop in like pool and spots or on mushrooms and encourage biofilms to grow, that kind of thing. So you want to get them in the fridge. But yeah, so I will tell you, the lion's mane may pin first. And black pearl and king oysters are a little slower than normal oysters. But what I tend to have is lion's mane spends a week in incubation for me, and oysters spend 2 weeks in incubation for me, which means the lion's mane gets an extra week in the grow room compared to the oysters. But they spend the exact same amount of time in there. And typically, lion's mane is pinning while I'm planting my oysters, and then they all come at the same time, because lion's mane tends to grow faster in the bag and fruit slower, whereas oysters grow a little slower in the bag but fruit faster. Typically. This is not always the case, but I'm interested in that cordyceps class. Well, I will let you know when I get it announced. We'll have to see. Whenever I can get that. Right now, I'm working on finishing up all the videos and stuff for this 22nd class, and then of course I'm already working on all the liquid culture stuff as well. And this next week is my last mentorship of the year. So after that, I will be able to work much more strongly on the rest of next year to get the entire year scheduled. So still waiting on some grain spawn. I've been watching for tracking info, but I haven't seen anything. We send an email when the product is shipped. Yeah, an email will be sent. Both should be automated from our website, from PayPal. excuse me, and from Pirate Ship, which is our shipping service that we use, the postage service that we buy through. Which one of your Hericiums would you recommend for a farmer's market? Elderwood and Wolf's Bloom are probably the two like culinary ones I would think of that are offered on the website right now. Again, I think that I'm about to go through and really do a big Hericium push because I've got all of these strains and they're all so different. And I didn't realize before I really got into the Mycologium just how different the phenotypes of Hericium could be. So with that being the case, I think that we're going to really push that. But for now, the Elderwood and the Wolf's Bloom are the two I can really think of that would be the best for just a farmer's market. Now, Tribbles is a really, really, really good one. We tend to lean towards that one for extracts. That's one, but it's what I would consider like Tribbles is like one of the best all around use cases, use case lines I've found because it is exceptional at extracts and it's very good culinary wise. And for people who like the sweeter lion's mane, it tends to be a lot sweeter than some of the others. The texture is a little different though. Its teeth are bigger, so if you like the finer teeth, then obviously you'd want to go with something like the Elderwood. Hey, Christian. Thank you so much. I got that that cardio powder, man. Thank you very much. I put that in my shake this morning. I really appreciate the gift. Hey, the microgreens. The microgreens have been great. You need to put together a mortgage lifter strain LQ pack. I actually have that listed. This is on my list of bulk packs to put on there. I need to get Samantha to go through and build the pages out for me, and then I'll get some photos or something for it. But but she and I have both been covered up. But I've got a reishi bulk pack, a Hericium bulk pack, a farmer's market bulk pack, a mortgage lifter bulk pack, and a medicinals bulk pack. I know that I've got all planned out. I need to get them on the site. But I absolutely will. I'll put a hurry on that. Maybe Sunday I'll be able to work on that. New Oxford Dictionary phrase: mortgage lifter strain that hits home to new me mushroom growers. So mortgage lifters, are like there's a mortgage lifter tomato, and like to me, so mortgage lifters are the saying, at least in America. I don't know. I know you said you're Scottish. The mortgage lifter is like pigs were considered mortgage lifters for the American farmer back in the day because it's what really paid the bills. It got the mortgage off you, it lifted it off you. So a mortgage lifter strain is just me taking a colloquialism and using that. But I'm glad that we can spread it. Let's continue spreading it because I think that's important. There are strains, there are good strains, there are interesting strains, and then there are mortgage lifter strains, things that actually pay the bills. I have the Thor bag cracker and some stir plates. Damn good price on all of them. And way better than expected performance. Manowar Innovations rocks. They do rock. Yeah, I mean... I'm always surprised and happy when I'm able to go there and see Ben working on something new. And there's some new stuff coming down the works. We did our prototype biopsy tool failed, so we're going to have to try a new resin. It didn't fail bad, but it failed enough that I went and took it to Ben and we were like, okay, we're going to have to just get a different autoclavable resin. But part of that's all the stress testing Ben does. So, and the price. I mean, for the amount of design work Ben does, he really should be charging more. That said, I'm not going to tell him that because I know you guys are taking advantage of it. Lucid says, hey, Andrew, hope all is good on your side of the globe. Midnight here, so I'm turning in. Catch you next time. Well, Lucid, you probably didn't hear this now, but it's good to see you. Glad you stopped in. If you're watching this later, just know that I did eventually get to your comment. Yes, Yeti's breath I got from you started colonizing my bags within 3 days. Pretty cool. Thanks. You're very welcome, Christian. Yeah, Yeti's breath is that's another mortgage lifter. So Yeti's breath, King Blue. I've got about 4 new strains that I've not released yet that are going to be in the mortgage lifter lineup. There's a King Blue crossed with a Pathfinder oyster, and a lot more. So we've got some really cool stuff that's going to be coming out of now that I've got my terms and conditions on the website and everything worked out. And those kind of look like footballs. But yeah, you're very welcome, Christian. And it was good to see you. I'm sorry that we didn't get to spend much time together when you showed up. It's always kind of hard for me. Like even the mentorship we were talking today, and as I was like, okay, let's go in the lab, and I'd get a phone call, and then we'd go to do something else. I'm gonna have to hire somebody. Tristan's wanting to come back. We've talked about it. So if I can get him in for 40 hours a week, I might try to get him in. Because yeah, Smith and I definitely need some help. And Innovation rocks. And I'm confused. Hey, Sports, welcome. Hey, Andrew, why does Stamets get so much hate? Is it because of the citizen? What? Samantha said, why do we get so much hate? Is it because of questionable research, or is it because he's made a shitload of money off commercialization? So whatever I say here is probably going to be wrong and not the whole truth. But I'll put it to you this way. I don't have a lot of hate for Paul Stamets. I know it's pretty popular for people to get into the mushroom world, but Paul's the reason why I'm here in large part. Now, granted, I think he was the straw that broke the camel's back to get me here. But 6 ways mushrooms could help save the world was a huge stepping stone to get me in here. Now, that said, I think part of it has to do with him and Chilton's arguments on whether or not extracts are good enough from whole fruit or if you can do grain spawn extracts. Now, commercialization, you look at grain spawn extracts, you know, there's the argument of a bunch of starch, and they'll be like, look how much you're paying for in starch. That said, when companies start that BS too, that doesn't mean anything. Starch is a carrier. So it doesn't mean that the potency is down just because it has starch in it, just because it tests positive for starch. So when they start doing that and they're like, but we make ours from whole fruit and there's no starch in it, well, that's great. But what do you have in there that's a carrier? You know, that kind of thing. And if it's just full fruit body, you know, there's the argument of fruit body between mycelium. Now, I tend to lean the full fruit body way. That is my leaning. So I tend to lean with Chilton on that one. However, if you start asking Chilton about how are we supposed to do that on all American grown mushrooms, he is very much strongly of let's go buy them from the Chinese. And there's love and hate with that as well. So part of it is that argument. The questionable research, there's certainly some of that. Then I'm not saying that all of Paul's research is questionable research. What I'm saying is, to me, all of the mushroom research right now is questionable because it is all so early stage. As scientists, if we're going to take a scientific mindset, we have to recognize how science works. The first study is not ever completely right. Science is about context. And for that, we need multiple studies. And we need multiple studies that have been repeated. And then we need other studies to explain the context of those studies. And then you get a body of work. Science is data-driven, right? We have to have a lot of data. I hate how my beard's being cut off for most of that shot. So, I think that, saying it's questionable research, all of it's questionable. Just like I feel like the testing for extracts is kind of BS right now. One of the things I think of is like ganodinic acids, right? When people consume reishi, if folklore use, they see benefits. Okay. I don't know how many studies have been done on ganodinic acid A, but there are 400 something ganodinic acids. And Up until very recently, people were only testing for ganodinic acid A. So what about the other 400 and something ganodinic acids? What is their part to play? We won't know for a very long time. All we have really is the folklore use of mushrooms, the herbalist use to go on. So there's some of that. So there's cars of questionable research. There is some bunk science for lion's mane, but come to find out, they were right for some of the wrong reasons, maybe, because we're seeing other studies that are coming out and they're increasing the leaning that hericiums have good neurogenic effects. So maybe they were just right for the wrong reasons. That doesn't mean that they weren't right. I don't know. There's a lot to go on there. As far as making money, I will say people like the underdog. So when you're able to play the rebel, people seem to like you more. And when you start being successful and making money, you get a lot of people after you. I think people think I make way more money than I do. And, even I think that perception has changed some minds towards me because they think that I am far more successful than I am or something like that. I don't know. And then I think part of it is people get into it. If they got into it because of Paul's romantic notion, I don't know if Paul would like this or not. Like I said, I have mad respect for Paul, but I see Paul a lot more like I see Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? A science communicator, maybe even a scientist, but a science communicator. Plus, people got to realize that Paul's degree, his training, is a microscopist, right? He's more of a technician, an engineer in that mindset. Not saying that he's not become a scientist in his own right, because mycology is not something that was easy to go get a degree in. So you had to go get something else and then work your way into it. So I'm not trying to downplay his efforts at all, but I'm just trying to say that it's even easier now to get a mycology degree than it was back then. And a microscopist is an incredible, because he was an electron microscopist, I think, at a time when that was a very new thing. So that there's props for that. But that said, he's more of a science communicator. He's a mycology communicator. And so he might simplify things for his audience. He's not, Paul's talking to the masses. He's not talking to people that have been in it for years a lot of times. If you were to sit down with him, the guy who trained me went and took Paul's class, loved Paul. I remember one time I said one bad thing about Paul, and he looked at me and he went, I have never met someone so willing to give of their time as Paul. And he's like, I will not abide hearing you talk bad about him. He said, it's best that you don't talk bad about anyone in the industry. But let alone, someone that has mentored me and taken, given me so much respect and earned so much respect from me. And when Hugh said that, Hugh very rarely pushed back to me. And when he did, I knew that it was serious, right? Kind of thing. And it really made me stop and think. And I was so glad that I love being called out on my, no one likes being called out on their bullshit at the time, but I'm appreciative that he did it then, because it really made me rethink stuff. But again, I just try to look at it as Paul's a science communicator. So just because what he said is too simplistic for your take on things doesn't mean that it's not being very effective at pushing the message out. And I know I took a really long time on this, and I hope that that's okay. Because I've actually thought about this for a long time, because I went through my own little, not Paul Stamets. It's kind of not even hate. I never really hated the guy, but I think what it was is that there were some things that were simplified, and then I got into it and I realized that it wasn't so gospel, right? Which is funny, because I think that Paul actually kind of talks about not taking things as gospel a lot of times. But and then whenever I got into it and realized that things weren't so simple or black and white or something like that, maybe I felt kind of betrayed by it or something. I don't really know. I'm not entirely sure. But I don't know. It just tells, like, if you're really disliking a Paul Stamets, it kind of tells me about where you're at in your mushroom journey, kind of thing. Like, I don't take it as a judgment of the person. I think that a lot of people go through phases, and one of those things is about meeting your heroes and kind of stuff, I don't know. I would love to meet Paul. I would love to sit down and have a conversation with him. Still, very much so. Probably more so than I ever would even in the beginning. I have a lot more interesting things to ask him about now, I think. But he is on a whole nother level than me, right? Which are the mortgage lifter strains you will put on your website if it's not a secret. So one is King Blue Cross with Pathfinder, the KBPF. But there is even now a KBPF crossed with another. These are things that I've got like 3, 4, 5 generations into the breeding work on. Everything on my website at most is probably second generation crosses. But I've got stuff that I've gone much deeper in. I've got some Rifle Creek crosses, the strain that Legacy Mushrooms brought us. That's there. That's going in the Mortgage Lifter strain. Again, Yeti's Breath and King Blue are already what I would consider Mortgage Lifter strains. And then what was that one that we just tested? I can't remember the code on it. I'll have to look it up. But it blew my mind. That one was such a heavy producer, even on 5-pound blocks. How did you deal with having employees when sales and production were so seasonal, much higher in the winter than summer? Were they just employed seasonally? No, I should have done that. The first year that I kept them, now I was trying to navigate it I was trying to navigate employees. My first set of employees was at the house, right, before COVID for a year or two. I think 2 years. And that went really smoothly. I just had part-time employees. And it didn't much matter that the summertime sales would go down and production would go down because that just coincided really well. And then because the profit margin on mushrooms is so insane, I was able to just keep them all year. But I was only working them each about 20 hours a week. Then when I moved into here and I started getting employees, that was right when COVID happened. You know, we got in here, we signed the lease, got the keys, and then like 2 weeks later had the shutdowns. And I had to figure out how to keep employees through all that. And then I had to hire on even more employees because the demand for mushrooms went insane. And some of it was just regular turnover, but some of it was people wanting to work for a little while and then just quit to get that $600 a week check that they were giving out back then. That really made things really difficult for me. So I don't know that I have a really good viewpoint. The best person to ask about employees, in my opinion, would be Sporadic. Been doing a Sporadic. I also know that Josiah up at ET Fungi, like he's kept his employees the whole time, right? So both of those guys, but Ben Dooling's probably had employees, the same employees the longest that I know of. He pays them far more than anybody else I know pays employees. And he has managed to keep a crew on there for really, really well. So part of it, I think, is that his grow room, he makes sure that he's got good control all year. And then he doesn't really have seasonal sales and production spikes the way I did. But my seasonal sales were, my sales were seasonal-ish because my production sorry about that. My sales were seasonal because my production was seasonal. I sold out whether it was winter or summer. Now, when we stopped growing in the 2 hottest months of the summer, that actually worked out really well for us. But we really didn't have employees back then. And by the time we started doing that, I had online sales. So that kind of covered that. And that allowed me to grow reishi and stuff. I was able to just stack reishi in the grow room, take off for, a couple of weeks, come back, check on the grow room, take off for a couple of weeks, come back, harvest some mushrooms, replace them, etc. So I don't really have as good of a handle, I don't think, on that as I would have. But I'll tell you some things that I learned. Hire slow, fire fast. I know it sounds cruel, but that's really the way it's got to work. Samantha and I, there for a while, we kept employees longer than we should have. I really held on to them because I was like, they have kids, they're counting on me, and I was trying to be the good person, but it ended up biting me pretty hard in the ass. So to me, if you see it coming, then just tell them I got to lay you off for a couple of weeks. Let's do a furlough. It maybe in a couple of weeks I can bring you back. Maybe I can't. And just be honest with your employees about what your needs are. Some people are going to want that. Some people are going to want a seasonal job because they're going to want to travel. So there's a lot of different ways, but I think the best thing with employees is honest communication, but also followed by an almost vicious outlook for the health of the company or the farm, because that farm is what provides for so many other people. And your employees do handle the farm, they do work the farm, but the farm is the organism that must survive, kind of thing. And I don't think you should be cruel about it, but at the same time, you got to make sure that the farm is able to continue. Now that said, I mean, pushing sales is a great thing. And if you're going to stop for a grow season, you need to just tell your employees that that's going to happen. Mostly what I found out is people just like communication. So if you communicate your needs with them and what's going to happen, and your best expectations, a lot of times they can plan for that. So that said, you're never going to make everyone happy. I've had some really great employees. I've had some really poor employees. And the poor employees, I don't think, no matter if I gave them my house and the food out of my children's mouth, it wouldn't have made them happy, that kind of thing. But the guys who were the good employees, I wasn't afraid to give them everything because I knew that they really had my back, and my well-being was my well-being was also their concern. And those are great people to work with. So, guy from Quebec, C-21. I don't know what that is. What do you think about deep freeze refrigerator like Joe Rogan has for elk meat? Is it all right to do that to mushrooms? As in, like, take a deep freezer and turning it into a refrigerator, or like the chest freezer? You can take like deep freezes and put like a different control on it, and it'll. I don't know how well that works, but as long as it refrigerates them, you don't want to freeze your mushrooms, unless you cook them first. But even then, there's then sales concerns about doing a value-added product. He talking about Joe Rogan, not Joe Rogan. Paul Stamets got so many people into this hobby profession. Hate to see the hate. Yeah, I do too. I mean, at this point, I'm just endeavoring not to hate people, just in general. Should always try to understand where they're coming from. May disagree with them. I may even work to stop them from doing what they're doing sometimes, but it's never like I don't ever want to be doing it out of place of hate. I want to, do it out of a place of love, kind of thing. Stamets claims that there are additional compounds in the mycelium that aren't found in the fruit. Exactly, yeah, and the data will bear that out in time. I think what some people don't like about Stamets is that he does make claims without a lot of data to back it up, and I think that's fair, but I don't think it's a reason to dislike somebody. By the way, if you both are getting lots of hate, let me send you lots of love. Well, I send you some love. I really appreciate it, Rose, and love right back to you. I don't get a lot of hate. Samantha and I think what it is Samantha and I are more sensitive than a lot of people. We were never meant to be online personalities. And so there are a lot of people, and you can see it in the mushroom world, people who are way better, people that are in the bigger part in the mushroom world who have way better presences than Samantha and I do, who end up getting much bigger following and stuff like that. But if you knew who they were on the other side, you may not like them so much. And I'm not going to name names or anything, but there's once you get into the supplier side of the business and start talking to other suppliers, there's a lot of, and there's probably rumors about me that aren't true. So again, another reason to act out of love and take in lots of context. Deep question. Who is our next Larry Cuff? Who's holding the torch of mycology for the new generation? Curious on your thoughts. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know that there is another Gary Linkoff. It's Gary, right? Not Larry. Is it Larry? But anyways, I don't really know if there is another one like that. What I see happening is much more of a decentralization because there's so much information out there, right? So, you're going to have small channels like mine with small streams and stuff where you're going to have a lot more of those. And you're probably going to have guys that have bigger audiences than Paul or Linkoff ever did. But that's going to be because it's the internet, and they were given mostly talks in person. But I think it's going to be a lot more fractured. I think it's going to be 100 factions rather than 1 or 2 factions, And when I say factions, I mean schools of thought, really. Factions makes it sound more like you're trying to fight. Now, maybe you are, but schools, I like schools of thought better. That sounds a lot better. And I don't know that there's going to be another next one. Just like I don't know that there's ever going to be another, David Bowie or Led Zeppelin kind of thing. You're still going to have big stars. But now we have the internet. Everyone listens to every type of music, at different points kind of thing. You still have some stuff that leans more mainstream. I can't even think of anyone that I would consider kind of in that same tier. There's definitely people who have the knowledge. And then there's people that I feel like definitely have the following. But that kind of combination of the two, I don't know. I mean, you got obsessives like Alan Rockefeller, right? Who has got deep-seated, very focused knowledge. And he does have a big following. Everyone kind of respects him. But he's kind of like the A$AP Rock of mushrooms. A$AP Rock's a rapper. He's like your rapper's rapper, right? Whereas Alan, to the mainstream people who aren't interested in mushrooms, they just want to know the barest, minimum about them. I don't know. I feel like Paul Stamets can talk to a lot of those, like a huge crowd of people. If Linkoff can talk to a big crowd of people. So I don't know. I'm racking my brain here. I don't see it happening the same way. It's a very description of Paul. Thanks for your perspective. You're very welcome. Thank you for the question. That was you're asking me some really thought-provoking questions tonight. I am going to have to take a potty break here in just a second. I'm looking forward to the online cultivation class next week. What are the details of time of live stream, etc.? Are you going to email any info prior to the start date? Yeah, I'm going to send an email out Monday for the class, but it starts at 1 p.m. Eastern, and it'll last till about 6 or so. We're going to have a Q&A at the end. It'll be a YouTube, so it's going to be like a live stream like this. But it'll just be where I'm going to go over stuff, and we'll stop for Q&As and things like that. So instead of me just sitting there, answering questions, we'll have segments, and we're going to go through. So you're signed up for the basics class. So we'll have a lot of that. Go through a wide range of topics very shortly, with a couple of small breaks built in. And then, the next class will be the liquid culture deep dive, where we'll do one subject much bigger. What, you want the lens covered? You can walk by. Nobody's going to look at your booty. Here, I'll take a commercial break. But yeah, I'll send out an email with information on Monday at the very latest. So that way people have a few days. But I'll be right back, guys. I'm going to take a quick potty break.
Imagine a world where the most unique, rare, and powerful mushroom strains are preserved, studied, and shared with growers like you. That's exactly what we're building with the Mycologium, a living archive of fungal biodiversity, sourced from the wild, expanded in the lab, and made available for researchers, growers, and curious minds alike. But here's the best part. You can be a part of it. If you're a bioprospector, a forager, or just someone who loves finding cool mushrooms in the wild, you can send in your samples. If you send me in a wild mushroom and I can successfully clone it, I'll send you back a cleaned up culture of it. If you send me a culture that you've already cleaned up yourself, I'll send you one for our library, ready to grow, experiment with, or add to your collection. That's right. Culture for culture. You help expand the library, and you get something amazing in return. The goal? To preserve fungal diversity, to give people access to new genetics, and maybe, just maybe, to discover something truly groundbreaking. So if you've got an interesting mushroom, a rare find, or a strain that deserves a place in the archives, send it in. Let's build something incredible together. The Mycologium, preserving fungal biodiversity, one culture at a time. Want to learn more? Hit us up, shoot us a message, and let's keep spawning culture, y'all.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Have I been talking this whole time? Oh my god. Oh my god. Thank you guys. Holy shit. How did that happen? When did I mute that? How far back do I need to go? Somebody calling me trying to tell me. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. I don't know how far back to go, guys. Fear of missing out. I'm sorry, guys. I'll go back. I will go back. The Huma comment, huh? Wow. Did I must have coughed or something. Hugh comment. Okay, let me go back. I will quickly go through stuff. Hugh was the soda drinking spirit. Yep, my mentor. Yeah, it hurt me. Mushroom realm spiritually low. Personally, I suspend judgment. I am so sorry, guys. Wow, this is. I always watch my audio. There's a little bar down here, and I didn't really look at it. So, any clues what LC is included in the bulk pack mentioned? Okay, so the bulk pack what I was saying is it's going to be some of the stuff that I haven't released yet, as well as some of the. It's basically going to be a wide range of strains that are easy to grow and like a wide variety of phenotypes. Will I do a mushroom farming fundamentals course? Yes, it'll be early in the year next year, but I don't know when exactly I'm going to do it. But I'll have that announced hopefully before the end of December. But I absolutely plan to do that course. Do I have thoughts on using wood chips versus wood pellets? I remember spending some time on this one. Yes, my answer was free is never free. Anytime you have an inconsistent product, you have to spend time to make it consistent, like by doing moisture content testing. If you don't do that, then your inconsistent feedstocks will create an inconsistent yield. And so pellets are nice and consistent, so you can just grab pellets without really having to do any testing, add water, add supplement, and you're good to go. Get a jar for spinning like in cowboy movies. I assume that was because of the snot and stuff. I'm just starting to produce a few pounds a week now. Any advice on how to get those first sales going? Oh, yeah. What I was saying is I've spent some time on this one, but I can make this a pretty quick one on that one as well. Yeah, so for farmers markets, give out like a quarter-pound sample, something like that, to people, and just give it out to them for free. Let them take it home. Samantha started doing that, and it got us so many farmers market sales. When it comes to restaurants, full-size samples is really nice. So like a 10-pound sample, and I had a mandatory minimum for restaurants to get, which was 10 pounds. And then for like CSAs, that's what I spent a lot of time on, how much I love CSAs, because they are a sweet spot in price. People usually come to you for pickup. And if you get someone signed up for like a 6-month period of time, and then another one, and then a couple of others, like it ends up doing a lot of that. It's slow to start, but the CSAs allow you to be very flexible. People are happy when they get diversity. That's what we've got going. That's the only way we sell fresh mushrooms really now is walk-ins, which is rare, and then our CSA customers. It's like $100 a month. They get 2.5 pounds of mushrooms a week, about 10 pounds a week. 10 pounds a month, which ends up being a little bit more typically, that kind of thing. I'm going to check down here, make sure that I am coming through. It's okay, we can read your lips. You're about to answer my question about the bulk LC pack. Okay, so I am back on it. Nice. All right. Again, I'm sorry about that. Interesting about the seasonality and always selling out. I thought there were lower sales during the summer as there was more competition from fresh produce. I'm so embarrassed by that. What I was saying is that, yeah, I pretty much always had a consistent sale going on. Excuse me. But I had fluctuation because I didn't have good control of the temperatures in my grow room. I kind of just went with the seasons. So when things get warmer, mushrooms tend to yield less. So that said, my farmers markets would kick up in the summer and my restaurants in the winter. So I had a pretty good sales platform right across the board. And then when we started doing our CSA, that covered a lot of gaps that we might see, with May and October being our two big peaks. October was always our highest grossing month, with May being our second highest grossing month. And yeah, that's really how we handled it. The until we started shutting down in the summer, and something that worked out really well too. You got to think a lot of farms shut down for the entire winter, so having a seasonality, if you build that in, really wouldn't be really bad at all. Fantastic Fungi movie is why I do what I do. Oh, well, that's a good point. So, good movie. Though I didn't like how the very last section of it just went all psilocybin the whole time. It went basically from a movie about mushrooms and how amazing and interesting they are to the commercial for psychedelics. But not that psychedelics aren't cool and all, but it's just the whole fourth of the movie or something. That said, there's some hate towards Paul Stamets based on that movie because a lot of people backed that movie, myself included. And we were supposed to get a copy of it before everyone else got a copy of it. The people who backed the movie, and then they backed out of that whenever they started trying to get a new model where you'd have to pay to host it to show it to people. And then I think people started threatening lawsuits and stuff, and finally they had to give it to us. But at that point, people were pretty soured on it. Paul actually distanced himself from that project because of a lot of that, and basically just wouldn't take questions about it. And I feel like it would have been a lot better, though there may have been an NDA or something like that where he's like he couldn't say anything about it, or maybe he wanted to still support it, but he didn't like the way they were handling the release. I don't, I don't know how much of the people that were releasing it versus the creatives who worked on it. I don't know how much the creatives actually had power over the release structure. But it became pretty obvious that they were out to milk it for as much money as possible, even breaking their commitments. And a lot of people didn't like that. That said, it's still a fantastic movie. But I think that may be where some of the Paul dislike comes from, at least in part. So would you say that if someone lives somewhere a bit more mild, winters usually hover around 14 to 34 Fahrenheit, it should aim for all year production? I mean, yeah. I mean, if you can, it's always nice. But it's nice to have a built-in break, too. I know this couple who built it. They were produce farmers, not mushroom farmers, though they did forage. And they would go through and they'd have the entire summer season that they would sell at the farmer's market. And excuse me. So they would do the farmer's market, and they were married. And so they would do their anniversary or something in the wintertime. They would travel in the off season. And they created this company where they brought different gourmet products to their chefs. And so they would travel to places like Madagascar, Jamaica, etc., South America, go tour farms down there, make contacts, figure out a way to import their products, and then they get to write off their whole anniversary trip and stuff. They get to stay in these amazing places, write this stuff off for their business because it was all about going and getting contacts. And then they would bring these products back. Truffles, they would go to France and Italy on vacations, but it was a working vacation where they would go meet these people, tour their farms, and then find ways to import these products. So, sometimes you can use these breaks. Sometimes you can shut a room down, throw it full of reishi, do a bunch of work at once, and then you've got reishi all year, and you get to take a month or two off. If you have chefs, though, you got to make sure you tell them ahead of time that you've got that time off that you're going to do. Rose Williams, not surprisingly. What did Rose say? Oh, we get lots of hate, maybe. How different are the fruiting results between a supplemented block with wheat bran or master's mix and one that is just hardwood? Significant between supplemented and not supplemented. Supplemented wins out big time. If you're comparing supplements like wheat bran or master's mix, like the soy or oats or any of that stuff, hey. it can be pretty significant, but it's mainly in how much the supplement you use. I mean, supplements are different for sure, but you basically have, Master's Mix, a lot of people use it 50-50 with the soy hulls. Oat hulls, the same thing. Whole oats, sometimes you can go 50-50. Sometimes you want to do 65-35. But wheat bran, you want to do something like no more than a 40% supplementation and it can cut through a lot of mutants because it's so rich. Alfalfa pellets, people will do something like down to 16% or lower, that kind of thing. So that's one of the big differences. That's the big differences. Schools of thought. I've rewatched everything you have at least 3 times. My goodness, you're my mentor. That's an easy question to answer, but I have new methods hopeful to create a new school of thought. I like it. You say that you have new methods? Because I definitely would like to hear some new methods. William Carr. Aspirin comes from willow bark, but what is it for? Apparently it's a signaling molecule that the tree uses, and there's so much it builds up in the bark. If you treat sweet corn seed with aspirin, it triggers ancient DNA that doubles the number of ears and the stalks grow higher. So there could be multiple signaling molecules in mycelium that interact with trees. I'd be very interested to see that. I'd be very, very interested to see that. You're muted. No audio. Still can't hear you. Still muted. He's going to be pissed when he sees how many answers he gave questions in the chat before he figured out he was muted. I just to start all over. Yeah, you called it. You called it. No sound. Can't hear you. Yo, no sound, buddy. I cannot believe I did not see this the whole time. Obi reads ahead in the comments. Big Sag, no hearing answers to questions. Well, you got them now. No sound. Let's all wave to the ill person. No more potty breaks or weed during streams. Well, I wish it was, that sometimes, but cigars it is. It makes a lot of sense. Oh, goodness. Hello. I'm not hearing any sound. Oh, he's going to be pissed. I know he is. I know I would be. Oh, Andrews. I just tried calling the shop just to, I guess I could let Samantha know, but nobody. Yeah, Samantha's with the mentorship, so she's not gonna answer. Dang it! I remember the good old days when Andrew wasn't muted. We're missing all the goodies. Sam's. Well, no, she's not. Samantha's a teetotaler, right? Wisdom wasted, unless you can read lips. Read beard. Yeah, I imagine that would be hard, actually. And my lips don't enunciate super well. Massive fear of missing out for the proposals when we're saying that we'll never know because of the audio. How big? Well, somebody did. Somebody was watching behind, I guess. Oh, gosh. Okay. How big a production do you recommend before going full-time into mushroom growing? I'm unemployed for 2 months, got all equipment, just filled in all my incubation area. I'm going to do 260 pounds monthly. How big a production do you recommend before going into full? I don't know, man. That's going to depend on a lot of things. One of the first things we ask mentees as they come in through the door is what are their goals? Like, do they have if they're going into commercial production, that is. One of the things you want to know is, like, do you have a target income or a target poundage? But, 264 pounds monthly, if you're selling to restaurants, that's not a lot. What is that? 264 times 8 would be $2,112. And, of course, that's not the profit margin. But if you're selling it at markets, 264 times $20 a pound comes up to $5,280. And the profit margins, that's mostly profit because that's the same cost to produce the 264 either way. CSAs are a little bit different. So, it kind of just depends on what you're able to consistently sell. And, if you're unemployed, it's always good to just get a job or sell stuff, right? Like, sometimes if at this point, maybe get a part-time job and then go full-time. You'll be working 60 hours a week, but, I was producing at peak 900 to 1,000 pounds a week out of 800 and something square feet. Hush. So you can definitely produce a lot in a small space, and a lot of it depends on your sales channels and where you want to do your work. And how much money you need to survive. Like, what are your bills? Oh man, I'm not gonna mute myself again because I'm gonna forget. 46 hard to do anything but laugh. Yeah, my bad, guys. I did, my bad. I wonder why it muted during the break, though. It shouldn't have muted during the break. It's okay. We can read your lips. Oh, goodness. Okay, you guys can go back to asking questions if you want since I'm here. I hope I didn't lose my entire... No, I still got most of the audience. What are cheaper replacements for supplements? Like wheat bran for a home grower. So not commercial growing, I guess. Grass clippings. I've used grass clippings. I've grown duckweed. But if you're wanting cheaper, the cheapest thing I have ever found, surprisingly, is Meow Mix. Meow Mix is the highest protein I can find. It's $1 per gram, the best protein source I've been able to find. Even though Meow Mix is actually more expensive per bag, you use such a tiny amount of it. Sweet Feed. Sweet Feed's a good one. You want your protein content of your total protein content of the dry materials 4.5 to 5%. So whatever you can find that's going to have that high protein content. Corn is not usually a good one because corn really just rarely adds anything but calories. Commodity feeds, if you can find a commodity feed, a lot of times those are good. I've used both commodity feeds and sweet feeds, and those work really well. Cattle cubes do not work very well. I'll tell you that right now. But there are people I know of in Europe that use fish meal. I've never tried it, so I can't really say anything to its validity other than I know there are commercial ops that use it, mainly on the coast. I'd say there's some garden amendments that you can use, that kind of thing. I mean, yeah, Meow Mix is about the best I can really find. Like I said, the Samantha hates that. I've grown on dog food and cat food before. I've never sold mushrooms from them, but I don't think Samantha would have let me. But she was very anti-cat food whenever I was trying it. But, yeah, any protein. Nitrogen is a protein-bound molecule, so anything that's high protein will typically do you well. Obviously, the weirder you get, or the more off the beaten path you get, the more testing you're gonna have to do. Soy hulls tend to be pretty cheap. I mean, it's like $9 for a 50-pound bag a lot of times from the co-op. May have gone up a little bit now. But yeah, I mean, even then, you don't have to supplement a lot. I don't really like wheat bran that much because wheat bran is so powdery. I like pellets. I like pellets a lot. I like whole grains. Whole grains work really well. I use whole oats for a lot, but I usually, when you use whole grains, it increases your cost of materials. So, there's a wide variety of things that you can do. How did it take so long for someone, TR, to stumble on the Masters Mix? It was right beneath our noses for years. Yeah, I mean, so TR was just trialing stuff. Before that, he was using cottonseed hulls a lot. I tried them after he did. I didn't like them. They are so insulative that they take a really long time to pasteurize properly. I don't know. Other people figured it out, and I'm sure before he did. And before you had people, TR comes in about the same time that you get a lot of people, myself and Eric Myers included in this, but there were others that were starting to produce videos. TR was started producing videos there for a little while. And I think he still does produce the occasional ones about my talkie and stuff. But before that, I think that you had people figure things out and then just keep them. Just keep the information. The spread of the knowledge, like people have always been finding this stuff. Far West fungi, I'm sure, I don't know what they've found, but I'm sure that they knew about soybean hulls and other stuff longer than a lot of people. But Far West fungi wasn't really producing a lot of, the YouTube videos and stuff that was explaining a lot. Better pasteurization techniques for the small grower ended up increasing the amount of people who could play with supplements around that time. Because when I first started, we used Satan substrate, straw, just bulk straw, buying bales and shredding them. Which is actually where I learned to use grass clippings as a supplement. Yeah. That's about as much as I can think on that. Okay, Andrew, only serious thought-provoking questions today. Bigfoot, yes or no? Inquiring minds want to know. I mean, Shroom Squatch exists. Shroom Squatch already exists. He came and visited me last week. We would have failed during the audio out, but all we wanted to laugh at you, so we hung around. Bailed, not failed. Gotcha. Much love from Tarboro, North Carolina. I like that picture of that polypore. Man, that'd be something to clone. Thanks for the honor. Greetings from Europe. Greetings, European. Soybean hulls are dirt cheap, at least in the Midwest. Yeah, that's the thing, is that they're not easily accessible for a lot of people. They're in the Midwest and the South, it seems like, but people in the Pacific Northwest seem to have a harder time getting them. A lot of people use, like up there, like here we use hardwoods and soy hulls, oats, things like that. My understanding is Pacific Northwest tends to be fir pellets and like Douglas fir and wheat brands. I know a lot of people out west that use alfalfa. Just to clarify, I previously asked about production for a one-man band per month. And you said 400 to 600 pounds. But just earlier, you said that you were doing 800 to 1,000 pounds per week at the house. So what gives? Did you misspeak somewhere? No, I did not misspeak. I had 2 employees at the house. So you asked about a one-man band, and then I was talking about square footage at the house. When I was at the house, I had 2 part-time employees. They would come to my house and work just like they would at another farm, except they just did it indoors. So that was that's probably what you're thinking of there. Is I was not a one-man band. If you go back and watch my videos, you'll see Jason and Laura, who were 2 really good employees I had for a very long time. COVID concerns. Jason had family members that were very, very concerned about the spread. They had autoimmune disorders and things like that. So he couldn't really work during that time and was a legitimate receiver of the $600 a week. I know that came with having to sit out of your job because of COVID displacement. And then Laura had worked for me a little bit longer in this place for another year or so before she had to quit. But both of them worked at the house for Jason at least worked for me for a year, and then worked for me the first little bit here until COVID hit hard. So I may be wrong about this, but I'm starting to think whole oat supplemented blocks don't put out as many flushes as Masters Mix. A lot of what I do so far is grow kits, so maximizing flushes is crucial. Yeah, like the whole, I do mostly one and dones for the most part. So if you're wanting multiple flushes, you might want to go with something a little hotter than whole oats. And a higher moisture content than what I typically do with the whole oat mixes. Satan substrate. I remember those days and Roadrunner's videos on. Oh man, I forgot about Roadrunner. Yeah, and dude, there are pictures of me somewhere. They used to be on our old website. I don't know. They're probably still on our Facebook somewhere. Probably my personal Facebook page, but just me completely covered, wearing safety glasses and a respirator, and just sitting at the bottom of that thing bagging the straw. Someone had to sit there and bounce the bag. That was I actually found that I ended up enjoying putting the straw out in the yard, mowing over it with like a push mower, and raking it up and then bagging it more than I liked that shredder. It just puts so much dust in the air. Straw sucks so bad. It really, really does. Therefore, like, even when we stopped using straw for like a year or two after that, I was finding straw in my wallet and jacket pockets, and it would just appear in places. Like, just straw would be like, oh, look, there's some leftover straw. Are there any still unavailable tools or technologies you wish were invented to help with your production? Always. But I have someone right next door. Every dream I have now, I go to Ben and say, hey, can we work on this? And, he ends up making some stuff. So, but if you're asking for like things that I wish for that we're not getting, it's hard to know what you don't know. I'm sure there are things out there. So when I came up with the aerated setup that I released the video on that so many people are using now with the inline syringe filters, I got that from an algae farm. It's right down the road here. I used to work at the fish hatchery that algae farm is run by now. And I would love to figure out a way. They grow it in bags. So they're growing in these 200-gallon bags that they're doing in like these goat panel vats that they've built, and then doing the air injection. And I would love to figure out a way to do aerated liquid culture bags, because then you could really do 200-gallon bags of liquid culture. And then your liquid culture to bulk systems would be so easy. That kind of thing would be really nice. I'm sure that there's other stuff. Like, I would love, like, I like a lot of the inventory stuff I'm seeing happening, but I just haven't been really dialed in. Nothing has really met my needs, and my needs are very different than a lot of people's. So I'm not a large market segment. Samantha started coming up with a lot of our own traceability. Part of it too, though, is I'm really annoyed by note taking and all that kind of stuff. So Samantha is good at that. So I only do what Samantha forces me to do. So I don't know how much I would do anyways, but there's a lot. There's still so much, and as things change, and I think that like some things we're starting to stabilize on, but I think there's still going to be a lot of things changing. There's going to be a whole new American system. I'd love a way to get around bags, but bottles just aren't good enough because the infrastructure costs are so high to automate those. So. Have you ever grown mushrooms from sunflower husk? I have not. I would be interested in the nutritional content. Let me see for a second. Sunflower husk, nutrition content. High crude fiber, low crude protein. So sounds like they would actually be around 7% on dry matter basis. Oh, you could work with that as a supplement. You would need to, I'd have to do some math, but the crude fiber content is actually good. Has arginine, lysine, threonine. I'm not familiar with that one. Are among the key amino acids present, and they make up a large section of the protein content. Gross content, energy content is 20.2 megajoules per kilogram. That can't be right. Or maybe it is. Millijoules? Considered a byproduct with a very low digestibility, especially for non-ruminant animals. Due to the high fiber content, they have limited use for humans and are primarily utilized in animal feed. Sounds like they'd be great. That sounds like they'd be fantastic. Yeah, if you've got good access to it and a consistent source, that sounds like it would be amazing. I hadn't thought to use that, but we don't. I mean, we have sunflower farmers here, but not a lot, and they don't tend to keep the husks. But sunflower seeds, I've used those too. People say not to use sunflower seeds because they have such a high fat content. They can go rancid. But I've been... Well, I'm guessing you're asking what I think about Bitcoin. I don't know. I want to start taking it. Just because I'll get paid whatever way people want to pay me. I've had people pay me in silver, and I've had people pay me in trade, and I've had people pay me in all kinds of ways. So, but Bitcoin, I mean, people value it, so I would value it. I don't know much about cryptocurrencies. It's not something I've ever really looked into. I like the idea, but I don't know the longevity or the practice or anything like that. It does. I hear a lot of people talk really highly of it, but I've just not done my own research into it. So it's something that I would need to actually look into. But Olaf from Brooklyn. Well, Olaf from Tennessee. I just did corn with high hardwood fuel pellet spawn for blue oysters in a quart jar. What's its colonized? What's got hardwood fuel pellet / brand ratio for a good hardwood fuel pellet and brand ratio for 5-pound block? So you'd want 40%. So if I'm assuming you're saying block, so this sounds like a fruiting substrate. So what you would do is you take your 5 pounds, and if let's say you're going to hydrate it to 60%, you would times that by 0.6. That's 3. So you got 2 pounds to work with, right? So you take your 2 pounds and you multiply that by I would say 0.4, because you want I would say a 40%. Let's just say 30%. So 30% of 2 is 0.6. So you would do 1.4 pounds of sawdust, hardwood fuel pellets, and 0.4 pounds. 0.6 pounds of the wheat bran, and then 3 pounds of water, and there's your fruiting block right there. If it's spawn, I would if it's spawn, I would lower it down to a 50% hydration. For the record, I'm going to bug you every live stream until you finally get Erin Hillard from Mushroom Wonderland on your show. That is all. Absolutely. So I actually had Eugenia Bone lined up. I need to get her back up here. She was going to do it, and then I had to cancel on her when I got long COVID. And so it's been over a year, but I definitely want to get. She was down to get on. I'd like to get her on here. I'm not doing my super official podcast kind of thing anymore right now. I'd like to bring it back at some point, but we're not quite there yet, because I got to build up my studio space, and that's going to take time. And I'm going to probably need to get somebody to come help me do some framing work and things like that, and electrical. Is LC to bulk the way of the future? Essentially skipping the grain spawn part, or is it the same if you essentially mix the grain together with the wood pellets plus supplements? So I think it's the way of the future. You see a lot of places. I don't know. Some places they still do grain to grain, and that have been growing mushrooms for a long time. And some places you see a lot of advanced like liquid culture to bulk techniques. I'm surprised by how you don't have to get real big with it. Something I taught the mentorship today was liquid culture to bulk, just straight from the jar. And yeah, I mean that's a good way to go. Yeah, it's okay. I was down at the end of that cigar, anyways. It's the problem with doing them not in the pipe. The pipe lasts so much longer. But I think it's the way. So right now, the easiest ones to do are Hericiums, Enoki, and Shiitakes. The reishi seems to take well. Turkey tail does too, but those aren't grown as large quantity. In places in Germany, Finland, you see a lot of liquid culture to bulk using shiitake. In Asia, you do that with all 3 of the ones I mentioned. Oysters are definitely possible. I've done a lot of shiitake that's from liquid culture to bulk. I think it's absolutely the way that's. I think it's going to take off. I think it's going to be one of the American standards of growing. If it spreads everywhere else, I don't know. It just seems like it might, because liquid culture is a lot cheaper than grain, and it's a lot easier to scale and industrialize, I feel like, than grain. There's a lot of logistical nightmarish things about grain spawn, and liquid culture is just so fast and responsive that I think that it's going to end up with good sterilization techniques. You don't have to worry too much about contamination. So good sterilization and good sterile technique, both is what I mean. And yeah, I don't think it'll be long before we're seeing that take more and more and more. Especially after I teach a bunch of these classes, I think you're going to have a lot more people doing liquid culture to bulk. It's already pretty much the standard of cordyceps right now. So, yeah, I think it absolutely is. School of thought. On the thought of a container, I hate plastic. Refuse to use it, so I decided to grow my container with mycelium and pack it with substrate and spawn chicken and egg thing. I think that's pretty neat. I really like that idea. That's a very something I could take to Mars idea. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how you're doing that. I'm not as worried about the plastic as a lot of other people are. It's still not something I enjoy. I'm not a demonized plastic kind of person just because it's plastic, but most of what we use plastic-wise can't be really recycled because it's got so much organic matter in it and contaminants, and it is not compostable. There is not a compostable bag on the market. There's oxo-degradable. But oxo-biodegradable does not mean biodegradable. What it means is that it breaks down into microplastics, and then the bacteria can consume those microplastics. But then when snails eat those bacteria, they concentrate the microplastics, which then when birds eat, that kind of thing. So you want that stuff going to a landfill. You don't want it going to your compost until there is a biodegradable product. I know there for a long time, there were a lot of people trying to say that there is a biodegradable, or they called it oxo-biodegradable because the bacteria could fully encapsulate it, and that was not necessarily the case. Or that is actually the case, but actually the problem, and adding the word bio did not change that problem. The buckets I didn't like because you spent so much time or money and labor dealing with that, and the bucket still broke down over time. Then the other side of it is, like I said, I'm not as worried about it. The reason why I'm not as worried about it is because as far as agriculture goes, yeah, you see a lot of plastic use in mushrooms. But, and if anybody who's farming and getting letters from the USDA surveys and stuff, when you talk to the agents that are doing the surveys, we use a surprisingly little amount of plastic for the amount of food that we produce. Mushrooms do. You got to think about it. You're using a bag, but if you break that bag down into how many grams of plastic that actually is, it's not that much. It looks like a lot because it's holding stuff, but if you compress that down into a brick, it's really not much at all. And so I don't think we're the biggest offenders. There are many other agricultural products that reuse far more plastic or so much more fossil fuel use through other methods. So straight. How come you don't sell cordyceps? Seems like the demand is there. I just haven't got into it commercially. I might. I've been considering turning my walk-in, since I don't do a lot of commercial farming anymore. My walk-in just kind of sits there empty most of the time. I've been considering just turning that into a cordyceps room. It produced quite a bit, and I've considered it. This Sam from Shroom Squatch is like telling me I probably should do it. I definitely think the demand is there. I just haven't got around to it. Is the truth? It's a completely different way of farming than white rot, and white rot is just what I've been working with for so long that I'd have to change a few things. But I've recently had someone approach me and just say, what if we dump recently-ish? What if we just dump some money in your lap and say, hey, why don't you find a way to scale cordyceps a little bit better? And I have found some ways I think you could scale it a lot better. I did not, we never did set that up. I never did take the money and work on that project, but I've definitely had some ideas that I think would work really well that we're going to do eventually, but just haven't done yet. One more sponsor.
Introducing the future of mycology, Dr. Silurian's Elixir of Mycelial Mastery. This isn't your average culture mix. It's a revolution in a packet, crafted for the dedicated cultivator seeking unparalleled growth. Experience the visual alchemy of this masterful brew. As you mix 10 grams with 500 milliliters of water, watch the solution transform into a rich, amber spectacle, the hallmark of a nutrient-dense sanctuary for your burgeoning mycelium. This is where vibrant color meets vibrant life, setting our elixir apart from the ordinary clear liquid cultures. Prepare to be captivated. Mix 10 grams of Dr. Silurian's elixir with 500 milliliters of water, add a stir bar for thorough integration, and sterilize the blend at 15 psi for 45 minutes. Once cooled, introduce your favorite culture into this perfectly prepared, nutrient-rich environment. Watch in awe as the elixir works its magic, unveiling a mycelial masterpiece before your eyes. Choose Dr. Silurian's Elixir of Mycelial Mastery for a mycological adventure that's as visually enchanting as it is potent.
Welcome back. I had to go get rid of some of that mucus. Hey, Andrew, I had a crazy thought. Would a freeze dryer work for sterilization of grain spawn bulk subs? I don't know. I've had people ask me that, and I've never worked with a freeze dryer. I guess my question would be, how would you do it to the sub, then open it up and keep it from getting recontaminated? Now, I wondered about vacuum, but some microorganisms can survive vacuum too. So now part of it too is there are contaminants that outcompete our mushrooms, and then there are bacteria and stuff that our mushrooms don't seem to mind growing with, and sometimes they even have bacterial allies. So it kind of depends on what bacteria and molds we're trying to kill. And I don't know much about a freeze dryer's like way of doing things. I'd have to really look at it. Some organisms can survive pretty hard freezes, and I imagine a freeze dryer just freezes things to pull out the moisture. So I took homeboy's advice and got a spit cup. I am going to call it here in a minute, because the more I talk, the more irritated my throat's getting. If I wanted to sell off my mushroom business, which I don't, but divorce, etc. in life, real quick before you get to the rest of the question, or before I get to the rest of your question, I have seen more mushrooms farms fail because of personal reasons than I ever have because of profitability reasons. Am I still talking? I did. Okay, I forgot. I did not forget to unmute myself this time. Boy, I'm going to be kicking myself for a while. So just so you know, that does happen. I'm not saying you're going to get a divorce or anything, but yeah, things do happen. One of the things I have learned after watching a couple of mushroom farms do this is, you know, I guess if you're going to swing or whatever, don't bring your swing partner home to work for you and live with you. That seems like a bad way to go. But yeah, I've seen that happen more and more than I ever have the farm business profitability. He's just so happy to see you every time you come back in the room. But do you know of a good marketplace to sell baggers, pallets of pellets, grow tents, equipments, flow hoods, etc.? So Seth Fisher, Mushroom Media Online, is always looking for stuff, and he'll buy up things a lot of times. But they're like, if you've got a good Instagram following, you probably have a lot of mushroom farmers following you, and sometimes you just post it on there. If you're looking for something local, though, like if you want to sell off your business as an intact business, you're going to have to, that takes a little bit more work. A lot of times you're going to have to find somebody local to you, but you can talk to your chefs about it. Sometimes chefs are interested in taking that over. If you've got chefs, they don't want that supply gone. They might have an employee who's interested in buying it from you. They might even, I've had restaurants pay to fund their employees' education and build outs and stuff. So, I mean, you're welcome to walk behind. You're welcome As long as you don't mind being on camera. Oh, she's sneaking by. She's sneaking by. You almost made it. Your sneak level's not high enough. Yeah. Brand new autoclave too. As in like you're to sell one, that kind of thing. I would like call if whoever you bought it from, because a lot of times they'll buy that stuff back. They're not gonna pay you as much. But there's all kinds of places. Sometimes you can piecemeal it, so sell it off on Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace, you can list a mushroom farm for sale and just kind of throw that out there. And sometimes you'll have people buy it up on a whim or want to come, and they may pay you to learn from you and then buy the equipment as well. I don't know. That's some ideas. Hopefully that doesn't happen to you. But I know it does sometimes. And again, like I said, it's almost always personal reasons. Hey, chicken wolves! Are you waking up? Or is this the middle of the night and you're not gone to bed yet? So you're like 12 hours, right? So it's like 7 a.m. where you're at. What are some good resources to learn about creating medicinal extracts and powders from fungi? Ooh, there's a lot nowadays. Mixed medicinal extracts and powders. Okay, so number one, I'm a good resource. People hire me to teach them how to make extracts all the time. I don't make a lot of powders. There are different kinds of powders to work with. You have extract powders where you take concentrates, where you basically make an extract and then you boil off all of that and you use a vacuum extractor or whatever, and it basically creates a vacuum and it recaptures your alcohol and water base, and then evaporates. A vacuum evaporator maybe is what it's called. But it leaves behind just the dry material. Now you got to sell that stuff for a pretty penny, and it's highly extractable. And I don't know that there's anything like, honestly, I'd be afraid to make things too concentrated. Because it's not what people have been doing historically. We don't have a lot of data on concentrates, right? Just because people do it in the weed industry doesn't mean it's necessarily good for that. But like, I'm a big fan of taking the whole mushroom, drying it at about 125 degrees. And then powdering it. You can just do it in you can get a powder mill, a grain mill kind of thing, and run it through small scale. Some people do coffee grinders. Ninja blenders work really, really well, as I have found out. So you can do a lot of that and then capsule it. They make capsule machines, but they also make little manual devices that you can do a few. I'm not a huge fan of them. When I did powders, I usually sold them in vials and then told people to just, as a food thing, like a seasoning, and work that way. How are the yields on the gold leaf? Oh, but you want resources. My bad. Resources on learning. Let me give you some real quick. So there's a couple of books that we have, and I am trying to remember the names of them. Samantha will know where they are, but yeah, we do. I don't know where they're at on there. I can't see them. Basically the medicinal mushroom books that I've got. So there's a top shelf. There's the fungal pharmacy. See to the left. There's one, a green one next to it as well. And then there's mushrooms for health. Yeah, those three. If you'll hand those to me. Thank you, ma'am. That's it. Appreciate it. So you have the book, Fungal Pharmacy. He talks about a lot of stuff. The Complete Guide to Medicinal Mushrooms and Lichens of North America. And this goes through, he does like folklore use, scientific use, like what data there was back then when this was created. And then can't remember if he goes into how to make stuff in here, but there is the Modern Herbal Dispensary. And while this is not mushroom related exactly, it's not a one-to-one mushrooms, they go into paste and ointments and how syrups and decoctions, topical preparations, like how to make this stuff. So this is a really good book, The Modern Herbal Dispensary. And then you have Mushrooms for Health, Medicinal Secrets of Northeastern Fungi. There's probably some new books out now too. But he talks about mushrooms as a functional food. This was a pretty good book. Mushrooms and Our Health. I think I like the other two a little bit more. But this one's a little bit more compact. Ooh, I'd never noticed that before, but someone did a nice little drawing on a mushroom just by scratching into it. Firm white undersurface makes a fine etching of canvas. That's the artist conch. But yeah, they go into some things that I feel like that they don't go into others, like active components, polysaccharides, beta-1, 3-glucan, pluran, lectins, peptides, ploristrin, a lovastatin-like compound for reducing cholesterol. Though I've heard that recently that's been debunked. I don't know how true that is, but that's talking about oysters. And this does go, like it'll have like oyster mushrooms and etc. So yeah, those three books work really well in tandem, I feel like. And they'll talk about powders and tinctures and all that kind of stuff. But I absolutely, I actually do quite a bit of extracts myself, and I do them a little bit differently than a lot of people do now. Just because I found out what really works for me by kind of going off based off his like folkloric use of mushrooms. How are the yields on the gold leaf oyster? For golden, they're great. As compared to Akron or Nova Gold, yeah, the gold leaf is the highest. And it's one of the better quality ones too. The Akron and Nova are both fantastic as well, but gold leaf is probably the brightest gold and one of the heaviest producers that I have seen on gold oysters. They're native to where you're at, aren't they? Or native at least a little bit north to where you're at. But I've heard that golden oysters are native to northeastern Mongolia, like China, eastern Russia, like that whole range. That's interesting. In regards to technologies that you might want but can't have yet, humanoid robots seem like a good pick. I'm all about that Tesla bot. They're starting to do them properly now, but it's going to be a while before they're good. Yeah, I'm with it, man. Like if there's a Tesla bot for $30,000, that's about what you would pay, or maybe even less for an employee. And they don't sleep, they don't get sick, right? I mean, you have maintenance issues, I'm sure, but it kind of depends on how often they need maintenance. But from what I've heard, they're going for being able to train like you would train a person. You see this, do this, 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 and this, and then repeat. So like bag production, robot can do that. People will buy your company for contracts more than anything. Absolutely. Which is actually the way, like, if you have like me, I could probably sell off my library of genetics at this point. Like go to a university or something and start shopping them out. And I could probably get a pretty penny, or to a company or like an extracts company and just be like, here's every strain I've got, 600 something strains. And I could probably make a really pretty penny off of it. Most people aren't going to have that though. TRTE dirty rotten bastard, right? I forgot it last time. Is absolutely right. People will buy contracts a lot of times because you've already done the work of finding customers and all this stuff, and it will save them time and lock new customers in just already. UB Tech, hey buddy. UB Tech announced that their robots have been bought to replace workers at car manufacturers. A robot that can bag, sub, and load it into autoclaves. Okay. Here you go. Nope, you're not getting on the belly. You can sit on the lap. A robot that can bag, sub, and load it into autoclaves and bring it to the lab would be cool. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly where my mind goes. Like something like a robot also is not going to have, like you can sanitize the outside of a robot, right? Like you can spray it down with alcohol is what I'm thinking. It's not biological, so it's not growing a whole microcosm of organisms on it and shedding them like we do. So it has its advantages when it comes to like lab work and things like that. So I'm down with it, man. I'm in this catch-22 position where it's like And AI. I've started using AI for certain things. But it's kind of like with chefs. There's a certain part that I don't want to lose human contact. So anything that humanizes me and the person I'm dealing with, yes, I'll pet you, um, is something I want to maximize my interaction with. But something that makes me feel dehumanized or makes the people around me feel dehumanized or is a task, that kind of thing, I want to use that. And the robots, like long hour production repetitive work is not something I really want to do. It doesn't make me feel like a human, like being out in the woods and stuff does. So I don't know, but at the same time, I don't want to get rid of people's jobs, and I've already seen how that works. Um, I hate to say this exactly, but I've replaced a couple of employees who I was paying basically thousands a month to keep, and I've replaced them with a couple $100 in AIs, and they do a better job. And that's a big deal because it's two people that were making money. So, but at the same time, other people are using that stuff at a faster rate than I am even. So, what do you do in that case? Like, do you go along with it, or do you just go, oh well, I'm going to be less competitive because I don't know. If it was a strong moral stance, I would understand it. But otherwise, like, I don't know. I'm pretty all for automation and stuff. I think we're going to find ways around it, and I think it's going to make us better people at one point if we all get to spend more time out in the woods. Medicinal Mushrooms by Christopher Hobbs is a lot of good. Yes, I have that one. That was another one I should have asked her to grab. That's a fantastic book. The extract techniques are excellent in that one. And I know what you mean by superficially. Yeah. Don't condemn the lab with robots. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, how much heart and soul are the robots going to put into those bags? Mr. Greenfingers, one love. What does that actually mean when people say one love? My understanding is it comes from like Jamaican culture. Because I hear Bob Marley say it and stuff, but I don't know actually much about what I've also heard him say like Jah love and stuff, which isn't Jah God, I think. I don't know. I do in Neuromancer. Is it Freehold? Is what they call it? It's like basically where they're playing dub in the space station and stuff, and they're talking about like getting help. And Malcolm is he says that he's the Jamaican Navy, just a guy in a space tug with a shotgun. It's a good book, by the way. Neuromancer, written decades ago, and has nailed, I feel like, a lot of the AI stuff pretty dang well. It's a good book. No, we're not doing this. You're not climbing up on my belly. I'm not leaning back. He likes to sit right here where my belly is, at the top of my belly, and it gets really annoying. He does have his liquor license too. He licks my hand. All right. Well, if you all don't have any more questions, I can go ahead and sign off. If you got some more, I'll do a few more minutes. It is a couple hours already, though I spent a lot of that time in limbo with y'all laughing at me. We'll give it maybe a couple more minutes. Real quick, I'm going to take this opportunity to remind everybody that we have like 2 more spots, unless they've sold during this live stream, but we have 2 more spots available for our Mushroom Cultivation Basics course. Well, actually, they could have sold before the live stream. I don't know. But the Cultivation Basics course is happening November 22nd online. That's on Mossy Creek Mushrooms website under the Learn tab. And then we still have we still have most of the spots left for the Liquid Culture Deep Dive happening December, I want to say 6th, but it could be 13th. I think it may be the 13th, actually. But December I've got the liquid culture deep dive where we're going to cover like aeration, liquid culture to bulk systems, a bunch of other stuff to all pertain with liquid culture, which is going to be a good base for when we get into our cordyceps class later in the winter. So sometime probably around April, March of next year. We might do it into March, beginning of April for the cordyceps, because that's going to give me enough time to build out that room while I'm growing out the cordyceps, liquid culture, and such. But I've already talked to Ryan Paul Gates of Terrestrial Fungi and got a strain of his coming to work with and start building out that room. So we'll have that available as well. All right, go on. You're obviously not going to be satisfied until you are in my space. I have not had mouse problems in this whole warehouse since I got cats, though I have too many, and this one's going to find a new home very soon. Yes, you are. New home very soon. Are there some mushroom myths that you found not to be true, similar to rhino horn as Viagra? Yeah, I mean, there's probably tons of stuff. It's mostly about stuff you can't do. You know, like you can't grow on sunflower seeds, or mushrooms won't eat meat, or I don't know. It's mostly that kind of stuff that I found to not be true. Yeah, I mean, there's tons of stuff, and it's most of it, I think. Like when I first got in, nowadays the information's a lot better. You get a lot better information now. There's a lot more people willing to share. Yeah, I can't think of any big ones right now that are going around. I'm sure that there are. If I wasn't so brain tired right now, I could probably think of some better ones for you. But there's definitely there's all kinds of stuff. It's with mushrooms, you have to take everything from a first principles perspective, I feel like. So you have to really look at it and go, what do I have? What do mushrooms have? What are they working with? What am I trying to accomplish? Can I do that with that? What about this combination versus common knowledge? Common knowledge in mushrooms is terrible, but it is in almost everything. That's like temperature ranges. I hate temperature ranges. I 100% hate temperature ranges because mushrooms will find a way. They will often find a way. And there's not an exact trigger. It really, I like cool and I like warm and I like knowing what those ranges are, but that's about it. What's that? Okay. You got both going? All right. Love y'all. Be safe. Do what? Oh, okay. Yeah, enjoy your ride. But yeah, that's probably the biggest one that I can think of. I think I finished that thought. Renegade is great with cordy. Oh, renegade mushrooms. Yeah. I probably need to write that down and list that out somewhere. Thank you, brother. Keep swinging culture. See you on the 22nd. I'll see you, Colin. Glad you're gonna be there, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, everybody, please like that. Like this video, please. Like it. Subscribe to me. You'll get more notifications for more Coolidge stuff, and you'll get to see my face more often, which is what everyone really wants. My face. Alrighty. I am going to head off, everybody. I really appreciate everyone hanging out with me tonight, making it a good and interesting stream. I apologize for the muted section. That's going to be interesting to get some comments on when this thing posts. Yeah, we'll get that. I wonder if I can edit that part out. No, we're not going to edit that out. So, and I've got some cool stuff going with the Spalding, but I'm not gonna be posting a lot about that. I might do a Spalding class at the end of next year. I don't know, but we'll figure out. I'm not sure how many people are actually interested in that. I know it's more of a woodworkers thing, so we'll see how that goes as well. But if you guys have any ideas for classes, write to us. Let us know. We're trying to plan all that stuff out now, so I would be very interested to see what people are interested in and where I can better focus my methods to suit y'all's needs. So enjoy your ride. Love y'all. Be safe. Again, thank you all very much. Enjoyed being with you. You know, keep spawning culture, y'all.
Yeah, they said the creek was quiet until I showed up with the flash. Now it bubbles like a cauldron full of chaos and sass. Flip the switch, boom, spores light the night. I'm that mad mycologist, cooking dynamite. Roll up in the lab coat, looking like a villain. Petri dish, pimping every strain I'm killing. Got that mycelium feeling spreading in the ceiling. Dr. Solary and Sermon got the culture kneeling. Moon pearl shimmer while the flask gets hot. MCM, baby, we the cream of the crop. I mix oats and sawdust, make that block ignite. Fungi fireworks, call it Friday night. I'm a spore bomb lighting up the scene. Grow bags popping like a fever dream. Got jars on the table, culture's clean. Dr. Silurian cooking up that green. Boom. Mossy Creek, that's dynamite. Boom. Spreading spores till the stars take flight. Boom. Call the lab, tell them brace for blight. Cause I'm blowing up the world with mycelial might.